Hello and welcome back to the Generationally Yours podcast, a podcast where we address real estate, sustainability and tech, connecting that Gen X to Gen Z environment. I'm Joseph Michael Daniels, founder of Elixir.
And I'm Colin Horton, multi-award winning surveyor and entrepreneur.
I love that every time, we get that every time. And today we have a very special guest, but as like usual, I'm gonna drop some quick facts. So Britain since 2008 hasn't been able to build over 250,000 houses. We know that housing prices are higher than they've ever been, and the future home standards coming. If you don't understand that, you'll probably understand a bit more of this podcast. So joining us today is one of the top tier people from Barratt's. I would say the most innovative person from Barratt's. Oliver, please introduce yourself, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys. It's Oliver Novakovic. I'm Technical Innovation Director for the Barratt Group.
Technical Innovation Director. So let's start there.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to start before I go into that, though, because I've got to come back on one of your comments. So what's interesting, you said we only built 200,000 homes. Do you know that back in 1950s, we built 500,000 homes? Yeah. And it was Home for Heroes?
Yeah.
So I always say, we have shown over 60 years ago that we could do 500,000 homes.
Yeah.
And what we did is we connected with the aircraft industry, and they helped us build homes. And that talks about integration and calibration, and collaboration, most important.
Is that because of the integrated, you have this kind of integrated methodology, engineers in the army, this movement from, okay, we've gone post-war, how do we rebuild? And it is rebuild in Britain in that sense.
Well, they were building Spitfires,
yeah.
And they had to build a lot because we were losing a lot. Yeah. So they'd worked out the way to build quickly. And I think the sustainability agenda and that whole revolution is going to mean we have to work together again.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think of that then in that case? Because for me, it's very simple, and I say this a lot, and your Barratt's right, so you build out of bricks a lot. But the idea that we throw like 20,000 pieces of Lego together and expect it to work every time when we literally people don't like working in the cold anymore and you can go get a digital career, you got to ask yourself the question, like, how much can you honestly pay a bricklayer a day until the whole industry just goes?
Yeah, so the pressure's coming, isn't it? So I always think of the three pig story and the wolf.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that we as a nation like brickwork on the outside of our buildings. People buy that. Do you know that in house building, you'll know this from your surveying, it's the only time people go and speak to their parents about a decision. Car and house. House probably because they're trying to get a deposit off them.
Yeah, because thank mum and dad, what are you saying?
But that's the only time. And obviously that generation, they think brick is solid and everything. And what we know is that actually you can bring innovation that is solid. Because you've been to the houses that we've built at Salford University.
Also, a lot of them first person to build an MMC product for 4 continents out of 2 different MMC products. Yeah. I think I can label that, whilst I don't build 18,000 and I did retire from that company and now focus on the crazy innovation side.
How did Barratt then? So obviously talking about like aesthetically, we like bricks as a country.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're going to be in a difficult position because ultimately your job is to improve sustainability, innovate, yet you still need to make money because you're a company. How does Barratt kind of deal with those decisions you've got to make?
I think it's a good story, Steve, because when I joined the business, the one thing the senior team said to me was, try and find a replacement for bricks. 1, because the materials we're running out slowly. 2, because of bricklayers we're running out. The average age of bricklayers is something like 48 years old now. And last one, which is now coming, is in the embodied carbon. So we take a lot of materials out of the earth. And we've tackled it in 2 ways, and I think it's important. So the manufacturers of brick are looking at new ways of using recycled content and renewable products to reduce the carbon. So that's one way. And then the other way is I've spent 8 years looking at what we would call lightweight cladding, so systems that are maybe 5 millimeters thick but look like brick. And actually one of the house at Salford University, we've actually put that up. And I've seen one where we're looking at a printed cladding solution. I feel we're getting close to it,
Nice.
But it's interesting because what my guys will do is they'll come up to the house. This is that whole mentality, and they'll
knock test.
That's what they'll do, the knock test. It's like, I did a lot of innovation in floors, and the first thing you get people do is they come on the floor and they do this because they want to see, does it wobble, but the reality of it is, I keep saying, who out of our customers goes to a brick wall?
Do you think though this
they don't do they? No one does that. They don't.
Is it simply because of human behavior? Like, I think this is a major problem, and this jumps into like going from the sustainability to the tech piece. Me and you categorically know that if you build properly, you don't only get the option of saving mortgage money if the banks get their act together, but also just the energy bills alone. Like, just if you told someone you get £1,000 more a year, your mortgage will be £100 less a month. If you just built properly, do you think we'd still hold on to bricks like that? Do you think the culture's still like that?
I think we've got to. I think you just got to. House builders say they build properly. I know you'll dispute that, but the house builders will say they build houses.
We built a part of property.
So what?
Snagging surveyors.
But what I would say is the key for me is this new generation that's coming in. Yeah. So the generation that were more brick led is slowly going away. Mm-hmm. People travel a lot more. They see different cladding solutions. If they go to Spain, America, they'll see timber finishing and stuff like that. So I think generally, generationally, we will be ready for different types of systems. I also think we're coming into the McDonald's generation, where it's all about quick change. People are much more flexible.
They move a lot.
They move. They, look at, people that the smart car. I always think the smart car where you could take the panels off and change the color of your car. Mm. So I think all of these things, plus sustainability and the environmental drive, everything is pushing towards innovations we've just touched on cladding, but it's innovations in renewable technology, it's innovations in the way people live, smart technology stuff you're into, the way we're going to survey. The world of surveying's changed, I look at,
not according to Rick's, but according to the surveys. When you actually look at surveying itself,
surveying and the way it's done. You talked about snagging, the principle, how, people are using drones and everything's changing, isn't it? And you've got one thing that is the definite is change.
Yeah.
And I actually think the whole sustainability agenda, the way the young generation is coming through with what they see and what they want, I think they'll be willing to accept a change. And we've just got to be ready. I sort of feel like I'm getting a bit older. I'm laying the foundation for those guys. So we'll do the innovation, get it ready, and they're going to just take it off.
So that's interesting because you know me in terms of being so disruptive and honest with my opinion. Liz Hampton, the previous editor of Property Week, called me the grenade. And usually I'd be here calling out big developers, but I've actually been a part and seen the work that you guys have done. And I think that I can't even say this, I think Barratt's get a bit of a bad rap because actually what you guys have actually done is push forward. You actually opened up a house where the rest of the developers, and now they've jumped onto Energy House too, which I really want to ask you about. They've kind of gone, we kind of have to keep up with Barratt. Barratt's have actually gone and exposed E2V charging. You did, didn't you? You did the bi-directional, you did, and now you're starting to use live data, which I was personally shocked at when you were like, let's have a look at the live data. So why are Barratt's on that? And then can you talk about Energy House too? Because it got so much mainstream traction, and I hopefully there's people listening to this in our sector that have seen all the bite-sized clips of all the online stuff and you talking at a camera and it being great. Can you give me and unravel that story for me about Energy House 1 and 2 and Z House?
Sure. So, what was your first question?
It's all about Z House. So Z House.
No, there was a question before that. What did he ask before that?
About the Energy House.
Yeah, it was about the Energy House and the innovation and you guys getting a bad rap. Like, what were those steps?
No, it wasn't. It was the question about, so why are we sharing? And I knew I'd get it.
Why are you sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we learned off the IT industry, and I actually learned from the Xbox. So, and I learned from my young son, who educated me, which is called open source, which is now the word, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But back in my day, what did open source mean? It meant sharing, yeah? Whereas, and he told me a story about Xbox sharing all of their IP and technology, and that the technology was being used by the medical industry to do operations, but then they had collected the learning of that and brought it back in the games. So it was like this circle of knowledge. Yeah, and right up, it's high. From my chief exec down, all of us, we recognise that if we want to be the lead developer in sustainability, we've set science-based targets, which basically said we're going to measure that we're going to get towards zero carbon. But actually, you want to lead, you've got to share, because by sharing, all of a sudden, you're not one technical team. I've now got hundreds of friends that are technical, everyone that is all leading to that end point. But the only way to do that is sharing. So we did the Z House as a concept. So it was very much, when we went to the business and we said, look, can we build a house of the future concept and throw all the tech at it, infrared, air source heat pumps, underfloor heat.
Some of it worked, some of it didn't, as expected in life. Some of it was a bit different, all of these things, hurdles.
First system where you could use the car battery to go to the grid, but not to the home. That's what we did in the Energy House too. And so we invited everyone around, and of course they've got opinions, but then it's that, you know, the butterfly effect, isn't it? It's that you drop that pebble, everyone comes to see it, and then they all go away. And then now what's great is I see all the other house builders are doing stuff, and we're looking at what they're doing, and then we're going to do something, and then it's that growth, and I'm sure you've seen it in many industries, but I think that's for us that sort of revolution. Try and bottle up the energy home too in a few words. So
Start with some clickbait stuff.
yeah, so
We can make it snow inside.
yeah. So,
Come on, let's get some of that good stuff.
So it's the biggest environmental chamber in the world. You know. So we think it is anyway. Someone told me the U.S. Army might have something bigger, but we can't find out. But basically, the best way to explain it, if you think you can fit 2 of the houses you live in today in one of the chambers, and they got 2 chambers. And in there, they can make it minus 20 degrees, so you can go to a Swedish deep winter, all the way to a Saharan summer at plus 40 degrees in 48 hours. Now, it's cool. So, techie people would say that's a great toy, but for me, so we've put this house of the future. So we put a house that we will build in the next 5-10 years, constantly 18,000. And then I'm going to throw the climate change that's going to hit us in 50, 100, 150 years. Yeah. Cool. Really cool. Because what happens is if I build one of these houses, and we do have, I mean, I was hearing this fact, the last 7 years, 6 of those years have been the hottest summers we've ever had. Yeah. We've had the hottest winter in Europe ever. You know, we've got this drought. Weather is
You know
just
how I
going.
feel about aircon.
Yeah,
You know my.
It's going mad though,
feeling
isn't it? I mean, the whole weather is really
Going
going
syndrome is worse because of it.
So I'm going to test it. So we're going to see how shading, ventilation, how natural stuff can help, what kind of buildings, because a lot of people would say the good thing about brick and heavy concrete is it sucks heat in, you know, and then it releases it slowly overnight, but obviously you've got different ways of doing it. So that's what we're testing. So that I suppose in a short soundbite is the energy home too. And I've got to say it's in partnership with Saint-Gobain, so the biggest supplier in the world, which is really important. So, you know, for us, when we build it, we're using our own trades and our own suppliers. So we're saying, well, what did you think? We want to learn from them. Then we're getting all the house builders around. We've got a university. We've sponsored 2 PhD students there to do in-depth. You're testing there. Others are testing there. You're going to have Tom on later, I think. So he's going to be testing there.
We're going to talk live data and the realities of the situation.
So
we won't release any information.
No, that's right. Hey, but that's open source, isn't it? So we're not scared to test that stuff and see what the answers are, because that's the only way we're going to get better. And I think that's sort of I always say put your big boy's pants on, because that's a conversation we should be having. We shouldn't be like everyone's secretive, because I don't think you're going to get market advantage that way either.
And the problem's huge.
It seems like such a beautifully simple idea when you say, I can imagine there was loads behind it, but speaking to a relative layman in the sector, it sounds like such a simple, yet effective idea. Is it just you guys funding it with the collab of the other guys, the other like Red Row and all that jazz? They don't fund any of it.
They haven't so far. They're all doing their own thing, so I'm not going to say that, you know, and if you look, then more and more are being done. Do you know what I find? I don't know about you guys, the simplest ideas are the best, aren't they? Do you ever walk in those innovations where you think, that's so simple, I could have thought of that.
You know, the problem is,
but I didn't.
The problem is, and this is where we're hitting at the moment, and, you know, again, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing steam up your ass because of Barratt's, but what you guys did when you was like, cool, come and show the live data. Now, we both knew going into live data that the reality of live data is going to show you stuff that you don't want to see. Yeah. And that is going to be stuff like, you cannot get away from the fact that when you put IKEA furniture into a new house, the volatile organic compounds from the plastics and the bonding they use in their timber is going to pollute the house. Like, you can't get away from that. You can't go, I know ventilate. We know that membranes fail. Like, we know that when you put a timber system in, you can't solve everything, and real data does that. What was really quite astounding to me on the project is when you was like, let's have a look at live data because we can start informing. Now, you did it, but as you know, I've had a lot of councils that want to explore live data. I've had a lot of policy that are going, we need it, but the developers are a bit scared. What do you think is going to happen as this transparency starts to come?
Pandora's box, isn't it?
It really is.
Isn't it?
What type of data, what's like the 3 most important bits of data you guys look for?
So,
as built, isn't it? So what it's a bit like miles per gallon in the car. Yeah. What the house building industry is being pushed towards is that it builds a home that performs at a certain level, and Tom will talk more about it, to a certain level. So it's saying, you know, I've bought a hundreds of £1,000 house and it gives me the energy bills I expect. But as long as I drive it, like miles per gallon at a certain speed, 50 mile per hour, whatever it is. Yeah. So you can't, because, you know, everyone lives differently. If I decide to run an IT business out of a home, it's going to be a different energy.
I want some of that good crypto.
But do you know what's interesting with both the Z House and the Energy Home 2? Quick one. We have probably 400 or 500 show homes. We only sell 18,000 homes. We have 300,000 people visit, because a lot of people visit show homes to see what they want to do in their home. On the Z House, we used plastic recycled bottles for the curtains, plastic recycled for the carpet. The furniture was all very low VOC and all recycled. Everything. So we went into that nth degree that you're talking about, for both houses. We partnered with Marks and Spencer's on the Energy Home too, because we said, the home is everything, isn't it? It's, you work there, you play there, you buy furniture there. If we're going to do it, it shouldn't be just what we do. What else can we help in our journey around embodied carbon and around sustainability? So we looked at furniture and stuff like that, and that's amazing when you start opening that up.
For me though, like, yeah, it's you went full bore, but like when we come back to like what are the key requirements of reading, you might have to shut your ears, but EPCs are flawed in that we use theoretical values. So what we do is we use the interpretation of a human being and putting the data right in an Excel spreadsheet for all intents and purposes. No offense, SAP, but it is what it is. And what then ends up happening is you get this warped energy performance reality when it doesn't actually reflect the person. So for me, the most important thing is one, yes, smart meters, but they're not that accurate. They're accurate, but they don't give you a full picture. So one, it's like, well, how much is the energy? So what we're using is energy. Two is then, well, actually, did the energy do it? Like when some of the work we've done, it showed that it was 21 degrees at the radiator, but it was 18 C across the room, but the temperature downstairs was set to 23. So that differential, like, is the energy that you're using
and this was
actually
on an air source heat pump.
And that was on an air source heat pump,
yeah.
But even we've done tests on gas boilers, and that's set to 27, that bad boy. You've got 70 degrees at the boiler, but actually the radiator is 24, but the actual other side of the room is only 16. You couldn't believe it. I was like, right, it's leaky as hell. So I think what you've got to understand is, one, like energy, how much am I using? Two, is that energy actually working in this space where I close this door? So on a room ratio. And then the third is, okay, cool. So I know my energy now, and I know the leakage or like what's happening in the room, but actually what is that doing to the room? Are you going to get pressure headaches, like sick building syndrome? Is the humidity increasing? Is the pressure changing? Has the environment in that room changed the volatile organic compounds? Do we need more ventilation? Do we need to cool it? So the three readings are, it's more like environment, right? One, energy. Two, well, did it work? How much am I actually using? Is this system actually efficient? Because they'll tell you a COP, which again, we do references on here because I do so many acronyms, so we'll hear what COP is. But that's efficiency of your air source heat pump. They're testing this stuff in the lab, not in the house. They're not looking at loss. So the manufacturers are like, it's 4-to-1 ratio. You put 1 kilowatt in, you get 4 out. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not in a real world environment. You don't get that. So that's important. Like, here, energy, where's it gone? Is it real? And then, we released environment into this environment. Now we've got to understand if that is actually going to impact the human being. So, some of the stuff that we've worked on is the World Health Organization, like 18 degrees at nighttime, 21 degrees in the daytime. But we don't regulate at all any of that. Like our houses, we don't regulate any. It's mad.
What's the best way to teach? I've seen a lot of stuff recently with the like heated skirting boards. Seems to be the new thing. A lot of people.
We got.
A lot of people.
Is
that what you're doing now? Yeah,
we were one of the first to get it in.
Was it
yeah,
big shout thermoskirt?
And they were Dragon's Den that didn't get through. I think
it was thermoskirt,
but it's a plumber.
Yeah, because we're doing a couple of refurbs at the moment.
Yeah, they're. I think he's from a plumbing background.
Yeah.
I think just sorry. I think. Just picking up on that point, so we've built 2 houses of the future. You're looking at data in the future, yeah. But the thing is, and I get you about EPCs. They need to develop, and you're right, data is going to become critical. But I think on your point, the important thing is we started with EPCs. We used to have nothing.
Yeah.
So then we had EPCs, which energy performance certificate, which basically tells a customer, very basically, what they should be getting as bills, and actually tells them what they can do refurbishment-wise to improve those bills. Yeah, you'll know that because you're about your business. Yeah, so and I think the journey we're taking, and we're leading with our houses, you're leading with your data. You're doing this podcast to inform people, is to really try and we'll be up. I always say we're over the mountain, over the lake, on the other side. All of us are looking, but we've got to try and bring everyone else with us. Yeah. So now we've got to slowly that's open source, work our way back. And the same with innovations like the thermostat. We've put it in the houses so people come and tap it, see it, and say, "Oh, I might do that." So it's all that sort of movement, isn't it?
And I think it's important to differentiate as well. Like you just said, some of the stuff we're doing. It's not smart home tech. I've been in smart home tech in the past. It didn't really work. The smart home tech element of it, it's more that data. It's the harvesting of data. So if I've got all these sensors reading all these different things, completely forget about what's reading the language. Forget about what the smart home hardware is. You have to remove yourself and say, what is the data saying and how do we read it? And then how do we use it? Because a lot of legacy systems don't allow you to use it. So I think that whole addressing of data does change it. But I think you're right. It's about that adaptation, isn't it? It's about movement. It's about steps. It's not about, hey, let's fix it. Because you've done it. Like you built, what I would say is the ultimate home that you're going to build at a commercial scale. I would say that I've built, as you know, my house at BRE, outperformed the Z house, just saying. But commercially scalable.
Don't ask him how much though.
Commercially scalable. But this is the thing. So like the house I built when I was at Utopia at BRE, per square meter is the highest performing building in the world, full stop. Regulates 21C. The amount of energy it's generated was off the charts. That's how we met. We used solar tiles. Like it was insane. Commercially scaling that, and it didn't have the smart home tech in it that was data driven. It had just like smart.
What was the aesthetic like of that house? Is it
cladded?
Nice?
Yeah,
nice.
No, it was good. It was a good, very good aesthetic. I mean, just on smart. So, and you guys can, you guys will be a lot more into the smart than I am. So, I think my challenge. This is one of the PhD students we're sponsoring is sort of about people and smart technology and how we get the two together. Because you're right, a lot of the smart technology isn't. It's really great if you're a geek. And you really know this stuff, yeah. But
I'm a cool nerd. I think that's what they call it. Like,
but if you don't know it, and you're very bright in this stuff, yeah. But you look at me, I'm not, yeah. So one of the things I've been challenging the cool nerds is to say, listen, if I look at my kids and I even look at my gran and everybody, they are on apps all the time. They're hooked. The smart technology pulls them in. So we need that in the house. We need the smart technology. We need the clever stuff that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
But actually what I really need is the front end that basically, if people don't want to use it, they don't use it, but they still have a really sustainable home.
Like with the smart meters, I do think they do have a psychological impact. It's a gateway into getting to where you guys initially want.
What's interesting about the smart meters is the smart meters are all intents and purposes monopolised by the national grid.
Oh, really?
So they don't tell you this, yeah, and they work on an L1. So there's a certain way that you can get access to them, but you can't install them. So you have to install on a stand on a new build. There isn't enough to go around for the old builds. So right now we have this amazing piece of technology that the national grid haven't opened up to companies. And you kind of have this then central sourcing. You can't really use it unless you're extremely intelligent and use data in a certain way, which I've been hard at work on for the past 6 months. But it's about that universal objective. And I think what we're talking about open source is the most important thing. I think that comes back to, can we be open source in the sense of like a company that does this, like I did at Utopia, building net zero buildings, putting our smart home tech in, a company I'm now doing now, a data company working on EPCs and trying to drive completely different things. But ultimately what I'm trying to do is go, can we open up this knowledge? Can we distribute? And there's a new tech company for retrofit that's going to start using some data. And it's like, well, how can they make decisions to retrofit if you don't open the data up? If you don't give that data out, well, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. What protocol? So I've been, Sir Robert McAlpine, Grant was on recently. He has a data trust in construction. And I found that very interesting. What's your views on the sharing of data and data trust from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think most big companies, I'll be honest, as always, we want to see the data first. And then I'd say most of the times, not all the times, we share that data. Now we're getting better at it. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the Energy Home 2, I've got 18 months of testing, hot water, heating, how it works, does it work? We'll be sharing that via Salford University in papers.
Yeah.
So
we have a white paper that's going together around some of this data.
So I think you've got to do that. I think, but it's an interesting discussion. So I think we're open sourced. But there's definitely other stuff where we've put hard sweat, where we do keep a little bit, don't we? Because you want to develop your business, and you've got to. So I think you open source to help the industry go forward. But obviously, if you're the first to or you're one of the first two, you get market advantage. I mean, this is business, you know. Let's not. I don't think lying about it is wrong. You know, you say, look, you know, one of the things by being in the lead, we're getting benefits because we're working with organisations that are really making a step change. So.
And it's not trickle-down economics, by the way. This isn't we'll keep all the sauce. You actually are distributing a lot of it. It's not.
Yeah, no.
That's the thing. I don't want people to appear and be like, oh, you know, yeah, but that's that again, isn't it? No, it's definitely not. You've definitely shared more.
Yeah, I think it's like an 80-20 rule. I mean, and the 80% is the stuff that everyone needs to see. The 20% is usually probably very much more to our business processes. So, but again, open source is also about being open about what you do and don't do. Because I could, you know, of course, people are going to come in and say, oh, I give everything away. And I think sometimes people are like, really? I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say I give everything away that will help other people follow the journey we're taking. There are certain stuff that we will keep and make some, you know, look at the commercialities of that. Some partnerships. I might do a partnership with someone, but the good thing is I might get that partnership, but trust me, I've seen it already work. Another house builder just gets a partnership with someone else, and then you've got two businesses. And that's a good thing as well, isn't it? You don't want
What's your thoughts on this whole Gen Z? What's your thoughts on this? Because I know that I'm obviously closer to it. What's your thoughts on this whole, like, open data, connecting Gen Z? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, the ability to be able to like share all the information you've got. Like, I know what I'm like. If I've done the research, I'm very different subjects, but we still do research ourselves and conduct it in certain aspects. Ethically, yeah, we should share it with everyone. But it's hard. You have to you have that commercial mindset. At the same time, it's almost goes completely against that sustainability mindset. They almost butt heads. But with Gen Z, you know, the generation coming through, I mean, they're obviously going to want everyone to share the data as much as they can. Of course they are. But whether or not that's ever going to be doable, obviously, Ollie.
Ollie's fine.
I'll go straight to nicknames all the time.
Straight friends.
But like, obviously, I can imagine not everyone's as nice and as forthcoming as you are in the sector. I'm not saying anyone in particular.
But you know what the trick to that is? So I'm going to finish on this because I think we're close to time. So the trick is I put the business angle on it like you will do, and I make it an and. I always say this, I use this all the time. It's not an if, you know, I get the data, I don't want to give it to you. If I can get the data, I can make a great business, and you can, then you're going to want to share back with me because you're going to see that it's beneficial to you to share because we're all human. Yeah, we'll share so much. And then naturally that whole Maslow comes in where we're all about ourselves a little bit, yeah? So we've just got, and that's changing softer skills and all that, but I think what our job is to say, actually there's huge benefits in sharing for you as a business. Survival of your business requires you to share. Then all of a sudden people are a bit more interested in sharing. So I think, you know, you sparked me thinking that's definitely, you know, an and, because you're right, you know, I've come out of a sector where we definitely didn't share anything 15, 20 years ago, because everyone, but I think we've realised actually some of those things, a lot of these things, they're not competitive advantage.
I'd rather be in the progressive sector than the sector that's just standing still, so everyone works together.
As the man, so I want to close on this remark from you, in that as a person that's leading the innovation of what is the biggest house builder, what would your advice be to someone that's younger, a Gen Z, maybe even millennial now, on their ability to buy a house? What would your advice be to someone young listening to this as to what they should look for in a house and what you think the best opportunities are out there for them?
Whoa. So two different questions. So what they should look in a house is very much, I mean, they need to look about where they want to be. My advice, like my father gave me, is always push yourself. Always spend more money on the house because it's bricks and mortar. And always look for, you know, it's one of those aspirational things. So, you know, push yourself, because I found when my first house, I saw you guys, it was a very proud moment to move my first house and pay for it and stuff like that. What in the career-wise, I think, you know, when I came through in the sector, construction industry, you know, you wouldn't naturally, you know, some of the really clever people wouldn't naturally say, oh, I'm going to go to the construction sector. It wasn't sexy, let's be honest. Now, I think that's changing because of guys like you and what you're doing, but also because of the smart technology. We're going to build houses with robots. This is all coming. So actually, I think hopefully that will appeal. So if I was saying something to someone, is don't sign off construction because it's changing, and see how it's changing. Go and have a look at what's coming. And I think you'll find a career in construction, one, is well paid. which is also important. But two, it's quite exciting actually. There's lots of new things happening. So my push would be, I'm not saying definitely come, just have a look at it, because I think a lot's changing. So that's probably my advice to young. So the other advice is more, rely on my father's advice. So push yourself.
Thank you so much. This is an intergenerational podcast trying to bring the best and greatest minds and greatest businesses to the forefront, but actually give pieces of advice and help people understand what's actually happening. And from today, it seems that we've learned that construction is changing. Digital construction is moving forward. It's moving forward at pace, which will unlock more homes. Please like and subscribe. And if there's any specifics that you want to know next time, let us know in the comments below. This has been Generationally Yours.